It is early in the morning, but this is really the only downtime I have. So I've been having this message that keeps needing to get out. And it's one of those that it starts and then it goes into something else, and you know how my messages go, they just kind of like woo, all kinds of information at one time. But anyways, I'm dealing with somebody who they're basically going through a spiritual awakening and a dark night of the soul. So I thought, you know what, I need to share this with everybody, because I remember when I went through that situation myself, I was so lost. I felt like the world was against me. My life was falling apart. It really was. Because when you're going through a transformation or you're growing or changing, your whole world basically has to it just has to be blown up so you can rebuild, because scientifically we all know that energy can't be destroyed or created. So considering we're energetic beings, all you're doing is it's old energy is going away so new energy can come in, and it starts to change the way you think, the way you feel, the way you allow people to treat you. There's a lot of aspects that come with this. So back to the spiritual awakening, you're going to go through a phase where everything you thought was reality doesn't make sense anymore. And then you start trying to figure out how are you going to live from this point on? How's life going to change? And the one thing I can tell you is try to embrace that. Don't fall down and stay down, because it's very hard, especially when you're around a lot of people that they're not functioning on a spiritual level. It's more of an egotistical level, because ego wants to survive where spirit wants to strive. So when it comes down to it, we live in a world of survivors, right? Everyone's trying to make it, fake it till you make it. So when you start going through this, life doesn't make sense, I feel alone, you don't want to be around people anymore, you might start even cutting family off. This is where your spirit is calling out to you, saying, this doesn't make sense. I want more out of life. I deserve more. I'm worth more. I can do more. Nothing is challenging, or it's too challenging. It's just, like I said, you're going to feel like it's just pulling you in all these different ways. And the best thing you can do in these moments is take a step back and do what is called go into hermit mode. It doesn't mean you have to hide in your bed, stay in your room. Just kind of keep to yourself. Let your thoughts be your own thoughts. If you're around somebody who's been through this before, maybe open up to them and see if they can help guide you, because the spiritual awakening, it's basically death of an ego. So there is a part of you that is dying, so the other part of you can shine and rise, and you enter the world in a different way. So understand that it is going to be slightly painful. I'm not going to lie to you. You're going to feel like everything is fake, because you're realizing the reality of the fakeness around you. So once you start going through this spiritual awakening, it will lead to a dark night of the soul. And the dark night of the soul is where you're basically having to stare yourself in the face. You're having to be raw, real about who you've been, what choices you've made, how life has affected you up to this point, how you have affected other people up to this point. There's often a lot of guilt, shame, fear, regret, other what we call negative fear-based emotions that will come up. You'll have past triggers and hurts and pains that you're going to have to work through to make it through the dark night of the soul. And I'll tell you, the more honest you can be with yourself, you can speed this along. If you're going to deny, oh no, I'm not that person, I didn't do that, then you're going to have to keep being poked, basically, by the divine of, come on, wake up. It's like getting ready for school. You don't want to get up. You're too tired. You're like, oh no, I want to sleep a little more. You want to fight it because it is uncomfortable and it's hard. I know, I've been there. And a lot of times you can go through it more than once, and that's the hard part. Hold on, I'll be back. Sorry about that. I'm at work, of course, and my coworker stepped in, so it took a little second. But back to what I was saying, it's hard, and a lot of times you're gonna wish people were there, and it's gonna start pulling at you. And sometimes people get in their heads to where they don't really want to fight it. And honestly, I feel like this is where suicide comes in, because everything you knew, everything you felt, you're alone, you feel like things will never be better, and your brain will go back to past memories, and then you'll think about the future. And the best thing you can try to do in these moments is to stay grounded, stay present, take each moment that comes and let it mull it over, kind of think about it. How does this affect my life now? How does this change my world now? What can I do to make it through? And some good pointers are drink plenty of water, eat fresh fruits and vegetables, try to stay away from partying and sedating those feelings rather than processing those feelings and emotions. Because if you're going to keep putting them down, it's like a trash compactor, and you're just going to keep stacking and stacking and stacking. So at some point, we all have to face ourselves, and it's really hard, especially if you're in denial. So, excuse me. I know it's easy to go, no, I'm not that person, and to blame others for things that have happened in your life. I did that for a long time. It started with my parents. It's my parents' fault. And then my ex, it was his fault. And then my kids came along and life was hard. Not to blame them, but to have an excuse of why I couldn't further myself, So taking accountability for your life, because essentially it is your life. And that's the hard part, because we don't want to sit here and go, I did this to me. I'm responsible for me. Yes, it's all our own doings. Because one thing I learned that's very beneficial is you teach people how to treat you. So if you stay in toxic cycles, and believe me, 16 years of a marriage that we were toxic for each other, and we abused each other in our own ways, and especially being an empath, mirroring that back, that toxicity, because at that time I didn't know what a narcissist was. I didn't know what an empath was. I was very young when I got married, so finding out who I was over time and then seeing who I had married, it made me like, oh my God, it was very surreal, and it opened my eyes to what I allowed and how I didn't protect myself, and then how I let myself down. So don't ever feel like you have thrown yourself to the wayside. Don't ever feel like you should be regretful or life doesn't matter anymore, or I give up. Don't give in to those negative emotions that will make you question yourself. Instead, try to look at it as, okay, what did I learn from this? And when I started looking at that in my relationship that I had, what did he teach me? What did I learn about myself? How can I change the way I look at it to be able to heal and move forward? And I started taking my power back, because When you're in a victim mentality, you're like, here's my power, you can have it, I don't need it, I don't know what to do with it. Rather than when you start owning up to what you've allowed, forgive yourself, love yourself. It took me a long time to go, I love you, you're awesome, you rock, we're gonna make this. I mean something, the world needs me. It took me a long time to get to that point, especially after being torn down for so long, because I allowed somebody else's opinion or words to dictate how I felt every day, and it's hard, I'm not gonna lie, especially when you don't know who you are. So, like I said, when you're going through this spiritual awakening and dark night of the soul, you're gonna question everything. Don't ask anybody else to define you, because all you're doing is giving your power away. And when you're going through these moments, this is where you're going to get your power back. This is where you're going to find the truth of your life, who you are, what you stand for. And it's okay, because we all need to get to that point of re-empowering ourselves, not keep giving it away to your boss, your teachers, even your parents, and someone asked me the other day, why don't you live with your parents? Because I'm still transitioning from bad relationship to getting on my feet. And like I said, we tried that. But the hard part was they forgot I'm an adult, and they still see me as that kid that was making bad choices, rather than I'm a responsible mother who works very hard, that has 2 kids of my own. So it's hard when you feel like nobody's got your back, but understand you've got your back. Don't let anybody take that away from you, because you're way more powerful than you think. You're way more powerful than anyone will give you credit for. And like I said, if you know somebody that's been through it, reach out to them, ask them for guidance. I'm here. Message me. I will try to help you in any way possible, because it is a lonely walk through the darkness to get to the light. But just remember, there's always light in the darkness, because one cannot exist without the other, and they both reside within us. So when you're unbalanced and you have to get to a point where you're trying to balance out so you can level up, you can, I learned something, and then you move forward, you're going to be lonely, and you're going to feel almost like you're dying, because like I said, a part of you has to die, being your ego. You don't need to survive in this world. You need to strive and thrive and live and help others to regain that love and happiness and the things that we once had. I mean, that was my grandparents. My grandparents were a lot older. They were born in 1912, so they stood for something totally different than the grandparents that exist today. So just remember that what you're looking for, what you've been searching for, what you forgot is love. And it will come back, I promise. And don't give up. Do not find in your darkest hour that there will not be light. Because I can promise you one thing, the world will smile at you again. So just wanted to get this message out, and peace, love, and light. Bye-bye.